In the expanded universe of Dragon Ball, there have been a number of characters featured in movies and TV specials who don't necessarily fit in with the main continuity or canon. However, this has not stopped them from being beloved by Dragon Ball fans, many of whom have been clamoring for their inclusion in Dragon Ball Super and the main story. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at 5 characters who should be included in the main storyline or canon of the Dragon Ball universe. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all upcoming videos in the future. Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video we're bringing you today, discussing 5 Dragon Ball characters who we believe, and many fans believe, should be included in the Dragon Ball canon, or would at least be interesting to see show up in the main continuity or canon storyline of Dragon Ball, for whatever that word is really worth at this point. We all know that canon is pretty much up in the air, but to introduce my guest today, you know him as he's been in a number of my videos thus far, and his name is...
What's up guys, MJ from Geeklist TV. Thank you for having me back on the channel, Mike.
No problem. And of course, today we are going to be looking at 5 of these characters, going from number 5 and up to number 1. And MJ, you can go first as to tell us who number 5 or the first person on this list is going to be.
Alright, number 5 is Baby from Dragon Ball GT. Now, Baby was arguably the most developed and interesting villain in Dragon Ball GT. People compare him with Goku, Black, and Zamasu, obviously being one of the better villains in the entire Dragon Ball franchise, and that's not really an opinion. Most people in the Dragon Ball fandom would agree with us on that, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. Baby is certainly one of these villains who had very interesting motivations on top of having a really cool design. I mean, after all, this guy was pretty much created as a last resort by the Tuffle people, as the Saiyans had invaded their planet and were overthrowing and pretty much exterminating their entire race, so they combined their scientists, their king, and a variety of other Tuffles together in this ultimate last-ditch weapon that would be able to get revenge on the Saiyans for the extinction of their race.
Yeah, man, definitely. Even though Dragon Ball GT is a very polarizing series, a lot of people hate it, a lot of people like it, very polarizing, very controversial, the fact of the matter is, Baby was a solidified villain. A lot of people love him. A lot of people love his story. A lot of people love the fight scenes, you know, the ideas in that arc. And I think Baby being introduced, and whether it's Super or just introduced back into the Dragon Ball franchise as a whole, it would be awesome. And I think a lot of us would like that and appreciate that, man.
So speaking of villains that the fan base has really come to like, and really that seems to be a big theme of this list, is Janemba, another character who certainly has a really interesting backstory that we see completely unfold on screen in the Fusion Reborn movie, in which we see Janemba is created by an overflowing of the soul purification machine, and Janemba is created as an amalgamation of all the impurities of the evil souls that have been kind of cleansed down on their way to hell, and thus he freezes the check-in station, and he is able to kind of set the entire afterlife and much of the physical world in disarray as characters come back from the dead, evil dictators and villains invade the earth, and Goku and friends have to fight him. And MJ, as you know, Janemba has multiple forms. Now, which of these forms is your favorite, and would you like to comment on both of those?
Actually, his first form is my favorite. I'm a fat guy, so I like fat characters whenever they're introduced and whenever they're made to look awesome. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, my favorite form is probably his second form or his final form, whatever you prefer to call it. And I believe in some variations, he's called Super Janemba, correct? Right? In that form?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah. So I'll just call him Super Janemba for the sake of this video. So yeah, basically, Super Janemba, very awesome character. I think one of the cool things about this character, and I think you'll agree with this with me, Mike, is the abilities. This guy could create swords out of thin air. Even though we kind of saw like Deborah do that, and we were introduced to the whole magic stuff in Dragon Ball and also in the Buu arc, it was cool to see him bring something like that back. You know, he was able to create a sword. He was able to warp time and space. The guy was so powerful that it took Goku as a Super Saiyan 3 just to even try to like lay a finger on him, and Goku as a Super Saiyan 3 could shake the entire afterlife. That shows you how powerful this guy was. You know, he caused unbalance from the afterlife and from the regular human living world. This guy was a real force to be reckoned with, and really his design was pretty cool. I think a lot of people will agree with me on that as well. And the whole soul purification stuff and the fact that he was like the embodiment of like pretty much all of evil, that's a very cool concept. And I think a lot of people might agree with me on this, Mike, is that he may have been a better be-all end-all villain for Dragon Ball Z than what we got for Buu. A lot of people hated Buu, his design, and his backstory, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think that Janemba is a villain that, if he had his own arc, he was fleshed out a little bit more, maybe given a lot more time to show off his abilities, especially that reality warping, which we barely get to see in this franchise, that it would have certainly been a very interesting final villain for Dragon Ball Z, maybe more so than even Majin Buu. But the next person we're going to be talking about on this list is someone who we really feel that, because of how much fans really still feel for this character, and because of how relevant at least a form of his has become in the most recent arc of Dragon Ball Super, is someone who maybe they should just make canon already. And MJ, would you like to talk about that guy?
Yeah, Mike, we're talking about Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan, the original legendary Super Saiyan. No, guys, not the Great Ape that Vegeta talked about in the Namek arc. We're talking about the buffed up Arnold Schwarzenegger on steroids. We're talking about Super Saiyan line. Okay, I'm rambling here. Broly was a very, what's the word? I guess polarizing character, Mike. I mean, people love him, people hate him, people think he's dumb, or I guess like a dumb backstory. And personally, I have mixed feelings on him, but I think he does deserve to be on this list just due to the fact that he's the legendary Super Saiyan. What more to say on that? I mean, when you talk about Goku and Vegeta, when you talk about the Saiyans who are constantly putting their lives on the line because they love to fight so much, they're indirectly kind of like saving, you know, us. They're saving the universe. They're saving Earth. So to have like a Saiyan who's actually the main antagonist for maybe an arc or just a main villain or maybe even a side villain, it would have been cool to have a Saiyan and to have him kind of have like an alternate Super Saiyan form, something that's different from the regular blonde form that we're used to in Z. And in Super, we kind of got, you know, Goku Black in his Rose form to kind of be the opposite of what, or a new form that was introduced aside to the whole Goku and Vegeta's usual forms, right? It would have been cool to have Broly just come in and be a character like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, despite my feelings on Broly and how he was utilized, as you could see in my video, Broly Wasted Potential on my channel, I feel like Broly is certainly a character that it just makes sense to include him in the canon. And if somebody else ever like got a hold of the canon, or if like Toei ever decide to just officially say, okay, this is canon, or okay, this is a part of the official story, Broly is somebody who's so popular it'd be hard for them to deny putting him on there. But speaking of another villain that is very popular in the Dragon Ball franchise, especially the Z portion, would have to be the brother of the indomitable tyrant of the universe, who is only overthrown by legendary Super Saiyan, and that is Cooler, the brother of Frieza. And Frieza may be cool, but his brother is cooler. And Cooler certainly was a badass villain. Not only did he have that final form of Frieza, but he kind of looked a little bit more awesome than Frieza did in his final form on top of that. Like, his color scheme was so cool that Frieza basically just ripped it off when he turned into his golden form, aside from, you know, adding some sparkles to his body. But Cooler's final form was really awesome, and one of the ones I certainly liked the most when I was a kid, just because of the fact that he reminds me a lot of Super Shredder, especially with that grill that he puts over his face when he transforms. And I know that a lot of other people really like him because he just gets buffed and he just kicks the crap out of base Goku. He even flies straight through Goku's ×20 Kamehameha. So MJ, what do you think about that?
Cooler is definitely one of my favorite characters, and I really wish he would have been introduced into the actual franchise franchise of Dragon Ball, and to be clear, the canon version of the franchise of Dragon Ball. And I mean, you did a video, Cooler Wasted Potential, and we actually talked about the concept that maybe it could have worked, that Cooler could have shown up before the androids, you know, that maybe we could have got that arc instead of Frieza in his mecha form that was easily defeated. You know, we could have got like Cooler, and we could have got the whole Emperor army, like the whole cold, I guess, army, if you want to call it, you know, Cooler and his dad, or just Cooler by himself, you know, because if you remember, there's that one line that always stood with me, and that was when Kaio was telling Goku, you know, don't fuck with Frieza because it'll follow you to the depths of the universe. So it would have been cool that that did happen, you know, Goku disobeying Kaio, he defeats Frieza, and now he has to deal with Frieza's entire army, and it would have been cool to have Cooler show up. You know, we could have gotten, like, I guess like a rematch, if you will, like that second epic rematch between a Cold member or a Frieza race character against the legendary Super Saiyan, to see how Cooler would have fared against this incredible legendary warrior. And it would have been cool just to have that, I would hope to think, an ROF story done right. You know, where they invade Earth and it takes Goku and Vegeta and everyone to defeat them. You know, I think that would have been very cool, and he can easily fit into the canon franchise easily, you know.
And either way, it would definitely have been cooler than the Garlic Jr. saga.
Yeah, man.
But MJ, we are going to now finish this off with a character that many people have probably anticipated is on this list, and many people probably anticipated would be #1 on this list, and it's so hard not to include this guy because he's so badass. MJ, who is that character?
That is Pikkon, the warrior in the other world that Goku fought in the other world tournament. This guy's really badass, Mike. You talk about a guy who, when he was introduced, he one-shot Cell. Like,
yeah, with his weighted clothing on.
One of my favorite villains, and your favorite villain, you have Cell, who was in this epic beam struggle. You know, he was threatening the entirety of the solar system, and then he gets one-shotted by, like you just mentioned, Pikkon, who had his weighted clothing on. But anyways, to move on from that, Pikkon was a very cool character, you know, a guy who's been training for who knows how long. He was really able to take it to Goku, and it was kind of funny to see. Is this a weird comparison? Because Goku was sort of out of his realm when he fought Cell. And then you move on to the next arc, whether it's filler, you know, Goku again was out of his realm. Is that like the 2 recurring arcs where Goku was weaker than whoever he was fighting?
I mean, more or less, because Goku really was outmatched, and that was one of the things that was one of the themes of this arc as well, that Goku, when he was admiring the fight between Pikkon and Lebu, for example, was saying how polished their technique was, how strong and how fast and just how, like, skilled these guys were because they've been training for so long. So it made sense that Goku was more the underdog. But yeah, I mean, the Buu saga, you know, he became surpassed, but it wasn't necessarily the final fight where he was stated to be weaker. It was more that he became weaker at certain points.
Yeah, definitely. Pikkon was a real force to be reckoned with. It took Goku using the Kaioken just to kind of like get a hit on this dude, bro. I mean, what are your thoughts on Pikkon?
I mean, Pikkon I always thought was badass. He's definitely my favorite filler character, at least in the Dragon Ball Z section of the series. I mean, I always loved the fight between him and Goku. I loved the fight between him and Lebu, and just seeing this character who in many ways is kind of a knockoff of Piccolo, but even more badass. He just spends all of his time training. He's already dead, and whatever killed him had to be really intense. Just the fact that Goku goes Super Kaioken, punches this dude into a moon, and Pikkon just immediately comes back and knocks down Goku before Goku can even get off a Kamehameha, just shows how badass he is, and their entire fight really sums up that arc, and that's definitely one of my favorite, if not my favorite, filler arcs in the Dragon Ball franchise thus far. So I definitely feel that Pikkon should be on this list. Pikkon would be an awesome addition. It would have been cool to see him show up maybe even in the Tournament of Power, but hey, there's always a next one, and maybe next time they'll actually think to bring some people back from the dead.
Yeah, definitely, man. Going to the afterlife, especially for this tournament with the stakes being so high, would have made sense, and I would think that Pikkon, with all the years of training, would have been at the top of that list, man.
Absolutely. So let us know your own thoughts down below in the comments section about 5 characters that you think should be canon, 5 villains, 5 heroes. We're likely going to do other ones in the future talking about villains or heroes, but let us know down below in the comments section. Also, make sure to go over to Swiss TV's channel because he makes content you're really gonna enjoy. Hit subscribe on his channel so you can see more content like this. And if you like this video, make sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future. And as I always say, stick around because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, all my biceps should be counted as my triceps and my trapezius and my deltoids and my pecs and my abdomen. Blah, blah, blah. This list goes on. Blah.